Okay, hello. Okay, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We were doing a accidental dress rehearsal. My bad. So welcome to the fifth episode of the IT Factor. I'm Michael Thomas, the CEO of amshot, an Oklahoma City-based managed IT service provider. The mission of amshot is to empower businesses and decision makers with valuable technologies that further their mission and goals. This is accomplished by creating an engaging environment that allows our team to thrive. So when a disaster strikes, it's not about temporary disruption, it's about everything in your business. The topic today is business continuity and disaster recovery. Like I said, my name is Michael Thomas. I'm the CEO here, and we have been using Datto for the past 10 years. They are one of our most trusted vendors. Joining us is Nina Novak, a senior solutions engineer at Datto. Tell us about yourself, Nina.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. So my name is Nina. I am, again, what we call a solutions engineer here at Datto. So Datto specializes in business continuity and disaster recovery solutions. We primarily work with vendors like amshot to give them the tools that they need to be able to provide, business continuity and disaster recovery services to their small and medium business clients. So things that we provide are, for example, our BCDR appliances. These are appliances that facilitate backups of your server and workstation infrastructure, making sure that we can recover very quickly and also replicate to the cloud. And we're able to, again, restore from the cloud in case of, a full site down disaster like a flood or a fire. I've been with the company for 5 years now. I am based in Toronto. The company, however, is based in sunny Florida. And my job again is to, show the value of this software and show again how the benefit that it can provide to businesses such as your own.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you for joining us. We had a wonderful dress rehearsal. Sorry for everyone in the waiting room. We forgot to start the webinar. That is my bad. I promise I won't use that as a clip on the internet a little later. So if you did stick around, I appreciate it very much. So we're going to cover the risks of downtime, what BCDR means, what a BCDR plan looks like, some mistakes to avoid, and how we can help. So let us dive in to the risks. We talked about operations grinding to a halt. What is your calculation? How much is every hour of your business worth? How much does it cost to run the business? How much revenue do you generate? If you stop generating the revenue, but you still have to pay the costs, that's your downtime. That's the risk. That's your financial risk. So your revenue is going to take a hit from that. Your customers are going to lose trust in your business. Recovery, which is the process of either just temporarily restoring your services or a full-on disaster recovery, is not something that is included in a service contract with an IT company. This is going to cost money to get accomplished. So if you're not prepared, it's going to be extremely expensive. And the cultural impact on your team. Your team is going to be frantic. The less planning you've done, the more stressful it is. This and Nina, you had some interesting points on the revenue piece.
Yeah. So a lot of times, in my role, I have, business owners come to me usually after some sort of downtime event has occurred. Usually when it's too late, they say, okay, I want to have Datto in place, which is all fine and good. Again, if you had this beforehand. A lot of the time too, in situations that I see are the effects of ransomware attacks. And this is becoming more and more of an issue, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. It used to be, back in the day that it was only really larger enterprises that were targets for these bad actors. Now they're kind of starting to become more aware of the sense that these enterprise businesses have very complex backup and recovery tools in place. So the target has now sort of shifted over to small and medium-sized businesses, which, sometimes don't have the, best business continuity and disaster recovery solutions in place. So the impact of that is twofold. The revenue loss in terms of a ransomware attack is not just the time that, again, they're encrypting all of your data so you can't access it. You are losing money because nobody's able to work, no revenues coming in. So that's money, just vanishing into thin air. And then there's also the part of, are we going to pay that ransom or not? A lot of the times when these bad actors are encrypting your data, they're requesting very, very large sums of money, getting up into the hundreds of thousands sometimes to give you your data back. And it's not even a guarantee that they will. It could be that they're feeling nice and they give you that, maybe they unencrypt your data. It could be that, it's just gone forever, no matter what. So it's still a gamble in any sense. So not only are you losing that revenue in terms of no one's able to work, so this is the money that's just kind of hemorrhaging out, there's also, large, large sums of money that might be paid if you have no other choice to recover.
Yeah, it's not called ransomware for fun. It's called ransomware because they want ransom money. It's so interesting that this is a giant industry. This is a $1 trillion GDP equivalent. Cybercrime is organized and they are in it to make money. And so we have to think of it like business as well. So let's talk a little bit about what is business continuity and disaster recovery. Business continuity is all about keeping your company going when there are small things that happen, and the objective is to plan for them and to understand what impacts are, who on your team is going to be responsible for what. And then DR, or disaster recovery, that is what's the plan when the worst happens and what is our backstop for events like this. So you can't turn this on. This isn't the light switch. Too many times people come to me and they're like, hey, we want to turn this on and get a good BCDR appliance. And I'm like, well, that's good. That's a great place to start. That's a good backstop. You can capture your data. But a strong BCDR plan looks something like this. So we can break it down a little bit and go through some of these bullets. The BIA part is understanding what the business impact of your software is, what it is that you critically need first so that you can figure out how long you can run without them. How much downtime can you afford? What does it look like if your line of business application is down for 24 hours? What does it look like if it's down for 72? What's the business impact of these systems? And it's a great report to get. It's a great tool to understand your business. Then doing risk assessment, looking at what could go wrong. So what potential threats are out there? Are you in Tornado Alley? Yes, we are in Tornado Alley here, not in Canada. You guys have wildfires and other problems, but you guarantee you don't see tornadoes like we do. You don't put your lawn chairs out if the tornado comes down the street. That's what we do here in Oklahoma. But you need to be able to prioritize your defenses. And then your continuity plan. How are you going to keep functions going under certain scenarios? And this is so important, not just for disasters, but if your business runs through these exercises, prioritizes these, understands these impacts, your company will be healthier. It will be ready to not only respond to disaster and issue, but be able to respond to economic uncertainty or economic opportunity. So if you know who's in what role, what people's responsibilities are, not only are you prepared for disaster, but you're prepared for success as well. DR plans, this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of amshot's relationship with Datto. This is what we want to know. Is your hardware scoped right? Do we have all of your data captured? And in this one, the DR plan, And then your testing and maintenance, that's kind of where Nina and I can talk a little bit about our skills. The communication plan and roles and responsibilities, that's again, those are back on the company's responsibility. A good IT partner is going to be mention this to you, tell it to you. But a strong vendor like Datto can help with the DR plan, and the testing and maintenance. One of my favorite, skills that you guys have is, that you test all of our servers in the cloud and boot them up and send us a screenshot every day. If you want to go into some of your guys' technical stuff, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So exactly that. There is a lot that goes into disaster recovery plan. Obviously, your software and your hardware is just one part of it, making sure that you have a good tool in place. So a lot of it is also how you implement it and how you use it. Are you testing it proactively? Do you know who's responsible for what? So again, all of these points are very important. But there is certain tools like Datto that help simplify this process and at least take a lot of it out of your hands by automating it. For example, the one thing that the Datto appliances do very well is that um, when we do a backup of a server, once per day, we're actually going to do a test virtualization of that server or that virtual machine to verify that it's able to actually start up correctly from a backup. Now, this is important for a few reasons. First, it's basically saying and giving you visual proof because we're actually displaying a screenshot of that server booted up to you. It's giving you visual proof that, hey, I have backups that are healthy. You never want to be in a scenario where, your backup solution is giving you check marks for 3 months down the line, and then you go to recover something and then it's not working. The backup looks like it's a paperweight, there's some corruption in there, and this issue's been persisting for 3 months, and then you have nothing to recover from. So with this process that we're doing, automating it daily, again, first of all, that's work out of your hands from having to proactively test backups. Second of all, you won't really go more than a day without noticing that something's wrong. Since again, we're doing this process so frequently, you have that peace of mind on a very regular basis.
Yeah, I'll tell you from the 20-year veteran in the IT space, nothing makes me happier if I know that there's a problem than a Windows boot logo. And if I know there's a problem and I can work on a server and I see that logo, I know that we are okay. We are going to get the data back. We are going to, survive. And I promise you this, when they built the data systems, that was the first thing they were like, engineers want to see that boot screen. That is when they know they've got something to work with. So uh, super important there. So here's some things to look out for. So do a BIA, understand the dollars to time ratio, understand how important these applications are. It's a great exercise for disaster planning, but it's also a good exercise to really appreciate these tools that you're spending money on. How much revenue are you pulling through them? How important are these? How much do these technology pieces provide to your company? So like I said, not only does preparing for disaster help you prepare for bad situations, but it helps you prepare for success as well. BCDR, not an IT only function. If it was just up to me and Nina to make sure all of our clients were 100% safe for everything, we would, all of the economy would probably shut down. Because, we're kind of like lawyers. We want everybody to be really safe. There's a lot of liability. We're not going to let you run your businesses. So you guys have to be involved. You have to understand what the impacts are. You have to be ready to communicate with your clients. You have to be ready to do all of these things. Backups are only part of the plan. Having a good backup is part of it. If you've got a solution, like I've been paying, insert vendor years, and I know my servers are backed up and we've never had to use them, that's not a plan. That's just a hope and a prayer. If you're not testing it, same. If you aren't regularly testing it and booting those up to make sure they're functioning, it's not a plan. if your documentation, and this is another thing that they think is IT only, this is not IT only. This is your business process documentation. We need to have ours as well for what happens in a DR. How are we going to turn the servers on? Which ones, what's the priority? We're going to understand that, but you need to know who's going to communicate, who's responsible, who's the point of contact, what does succession look like, what does, who's going to handle media, all of these things. You've got to have that documentation as well. And you got to look out for supply chain. So you got to look out for third party other systems that aren't backed up in your server stack. So you've got to start looking in your cloud, other third party systems that might fail. And then back to your business, who's in charge of what at your company? Who's going to be the point of contact with IT? I know if we have a DR situation, we want to set up hourly meetings. So we're going to meet every hour on the hour. We're going to communicate with someone at your organization. Who is that person? What are they going to communicate out? How are they going to share information to your team members? How are they going to share information to your customer base? We need to define those roles and responsibilities, and same with the poor communication planning.
Yeah. And I can, add a little bit to that. I would consider myself maybe like an impartial third party when it comes to the relationships between service providers like amshot and their small to medium-sized business clients. So I find that the best sort of seamless recoveries take place when the provider and the client are aligned and communicate consistently. Obviously, they are providing a service, but they need to know how you want to run your business. They need to understand what exactly you're looking to get out of, recovering your systems. And they need to know exactly, again, who's responsible for what on your side. The other thing too that I think is really important is the piece about ignoring third-party dependencies. So not everything is going to be running off of a server. You have other applications that are critical to your business. Again, most things now that we're, utilizing to run our businesses are cloud-based. So take those into consideration when you're building out your DR plan. Hey, is there a way if, all of our computers blow up that we can still access our accounting software or our emails? Do we have a good backup of these tools in general? If that provider has an outage, do we have ways to still get access to our data? These are all very important questions to ask if you are working with a provider, and they're good questions to ask that vendor of that application itself, and making sure that you know where to go when things go wrong.
Yeah. There was a great story a few months ago. It was a supply chain issue. And so people think supply chain, they think, where do the nuts and bolts come to go into my car? Well, there's a different supply chain, and it's the digital IT supply chain. And there was a giant outage to dealerships all over the United States and Canada. And it was because one vendor, and it was like how people got paid, it was their payroll, it was how they were processing car deals, big platform. The platform was okay, but the people that they were buying compute from had a problem. And so it trickled down. And so those car dealerships had no plan. What do we do if we lose access to the software that manages everything? And it was down for a couple weeks. And so they were cutting paper checks. They couldn't sell cars. What do you do if this tool is gone for a day? What do you do if this tool is gone for an hour? What do you do if this tool is gone for 2 weeks? Now, you don't have to come up with like a, full redundancy, backup, paper, everything, but you got to have some type of plan. This is who's going to be in charge of this piece. This is going to be in charge of what, this. And it's so important to understand these, and those business impact analysis are so important to identify those applications, understand how they can go down, and how much it costs if they're gone per hour, per day. And then you can just start multiplying it, and you can see that risk that you need to prepare for. So how can Nina and I help? So this is what amshot does for our clients. So we want to make sure they have a plan. We want to make sure that they have the right technology in place. We want to make sure that if something happens, It's as small as possible. And so Nina knows this quote, and it's not if this is going to happen, it's when. It's not if your server is going to fail, it's when is your server going to fail. It's not if you get a cyber attack in your company, it's when you get a cyber attack in your company. Do you want that cyber attack to be something that disrupts one person for 15 minutes? Or do you want that cyber attack to be something that disrupts your entire company for 2 weeks? Monitoring, maintenance, incident response, fast incident response, and recovery, if you can minimize it, you can keep that continuity up and those costs down. But you do have to prepare for the worst as well. And that's that DR planning, because you cannot stop everything all the time. And then you need to know what your responsibilities are, and we can help with that. We want to investigate your industry responsibilities, understand your communication style, how you want to communicate with your clients, and wrap your IT BCDR plan around your business goals first, compliance second. And, most industries in the United States don't have compliance requirements, but it's still good to maybe think of some, like, do I have a cyber policy? What are they expecting? And so maybe you don't have industry compliance, but you've got compliance from a policy, an insurance policy, that if you want them to pay, you need to be aware of it, and you need to be meeting it, exceeding it, consistently thinking about it and working on it. So there you go.
Yeah. And yeah, to Michael's points again, Datto, we are here to provide the technology, the cloud services, the support, and then, the amshot team is here to provide, technicians who are great at utilizing the software, who know how to use the tool properly, who know where to go when things go wrong. And then again, how your responsibilities are really, again, communication, letting us know, what's important to you, making sure that you communicate whatever needs for your business that you need in terms of recovery from a disaster. And those are the situations where preparedness is really the only way to kind of mitigate these kinds of things. In this case, proactivity is really the only way.
Yeah. I've got a great story. Had a client. We've been talking to them about upgrading their security on their email, on their 365 environment. Like, hey, there are some changes we need to make. This is what it's going to take. This is how long it's going to take. We're going to need to get company buy-in. We need to do this. And we tell them, hey, we need to do this. Hey, we really need to do this. They get like a breach scare, phishing scare. They sign the quote. They're like, okay, we've got to do it. And I'm like, uh, it's too late. Well, it turns out that it was a breach scare, and it was just someone trying to spoof their email to a vendor. And so, there was another company that was getting attacked, but they were kind of adjacent to it. And then, the owner calls and she's like, hey, can we not do that project now that something bad didn't happen to us? And I said, that's the worst time to do it. You now have the opportunity to still be ahead of the situation. Let's continue with this work that you need to do so that you don't get embarrassed, so that you don't have a cyber incident. And you're right, you've got to be proactive. You have to look at this as a lifestyle, not a light switch. If cybersecurity and BCDR was a thing that I could just go in the back end somewhere and turn it on for everybody, I'd go turn it on for everybody for nothing. If that's how easy it was, but it's not. It is truly a lifestyle, and it is an ongoing situation. We're battling $1 trillion industry. This is reality. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending. If you stuck around, we would love to get any questions that you guys have. So anybody have any questions? Chanel, you've been here with us this whole time. Do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions. I did see an attendee that had their hand up, but I do not see who that was. Can you see who that was that might have a question?
I am going to just allow everybody to talk. So if anybody has a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. I'm looking at you, Taylor. Ask us something really loaded question.
Yeah, so we've got like our backup appliance on site, but what if like our whole site goes down? Can we still recover from it?
Good question. I will answer for Nina. Yes, all of our servers with backup appliances are also backed up daily to the cloud. So we will, and we can change the time and frequency, but by default, we back them up once a day to the cloud. So if you have an F5 hit your warehouse on a Saturday, we'll have you back up and running in the cloud, and so you can connect via VPN. We have to have our DR plan to that Friday evening data set that we've backed up to the cloud. All right, well, that was our one easy button question. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I do appreciate everyone's patience. Apologies as we learn how to navigate webinars. We did start right on time. I just forgot to hit the start button, and so everyone was in the waiting room. So it was great dress rehearsal. You've got Nina's email on the screen, or I took that off. Anyway, if you need me, you know how to get a hold of me. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.